it is very, very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate. It is very, very unfortunate that Southern Cameroon become a slave in their own country. Southern Cameroon become a slave in their own country and under orchestrated by the Republic of Cameroon and the complicity of French government. And this is an important document. This is the document that respect and granted the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. And I always conclude with the reading of this document that Southern Cameroon was never a colonial territory of the Republic of Cameroon, because many people use the word secessions to portray the Southern Cameroon as a guilty verdict on behalf of Southern Cameroon. And so because they use a guilty verdict for Southern Cameroon without factual informations. And so the United Nations General Assembly, 1608 XV, 21st April 1961. The United Nations General Assembly, 994 plenary meeting on Friday, April 1961 at 3 p.m. here in New York, the United States. And the 15th United Nations General Assembly, 15th United Nations 15th session of the Assembly President was Frederick H. Boland of Ireland. And the 15th session of the General Assembly Vice President was Xiang of China. And the rapporteur or the reporter in that plenary session was Boy of Denmark. So those were the leaders that presiding over the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon in independent vote. 64 nations voted for the independence of Southern Cameroon. And the Republic of Cameroon was also voting against the Southern Cameroon. And so if the Republic of Cameroon was voting against the independence of Southern Cameroon, then why does the Republic of Cameroon out of a sudden become the control of Southern Cameroon? Because that's an important question that we never deduce or bringing. And I mean, this is an important question. One will have to ask yourself, if the Republic of Cameroon voted against the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, how did the Republic of Cameroon become the sole occupier of Southern Cameroon and the deciding force of Southern Cameroon? That's the critical hypothetical question that we will have to ask ourselves. How do we find ourselves in this situation? And La République that voted against our sovereignty in return to occupy us as a colonial territory. And we become their subject. I'm sure we don't have an answer, but we do have an answer. Those nations that voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, they include the following: Honduras, Hungary, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Iceland, Japan, Jordan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Mali, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Norway, Pakistan, Philippines, Poland, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Sweden, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, Soviet Socialist Republic, Union of South Africa, Union of Soviet Socialists, United Arab Republic, United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, United States of America. United States voted recognizing the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, United States. Venezuela, Yemen, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Albania, Australia, Austria, Bolivia, Bulgaria, Burma, Belarus, Soviet Socialist Republic, Canada, Ceylon, Chile, Costa Rica, Cuba, Cyprus, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Ethiopia, Federation of Malaysia, Finland, Ghana, and Guinea. Those were the nations that voted for the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. There were 64 in numbers. And those that voted against Southern Cameroon self-independence. These include the following. They include Israel, Ivory Coast, Luxembourg, Madagascar, Niger, Paraguay, Senegal, Upper Volta, Uruguay, Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Cambodia, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, China, Congo, Brazzaville, Dahomey, France, Gabon, and Greece. And what you understand is that all the French colony, or if not, 3/4 of the French colony, voted for the abolition of Southern Cameroon as not to recognize as a full nation. But unfortunately, they were the minority, and Southern Cameroon has got their independence. And if the Republic of Cameroon voted against the Southern Cameroon, and Southern Cameroon gained their independence in 1964, and if that logic is true, what happened? Why is the Republic of Cameroon doing in Southern Cameroon? It's obvious. Clear question. What are they doing? When the Republic of Cameroon independence was granted in 1960, Southern Cameroon did not participate. Southern Cameroon remained neutral. It's because of the complicity of France. Because France is a permanent member of the Security Council. And France always ensured that he controlled all the West African region, and to ensure that Southern Cameroon was uprooted as a sovereign nation. And so whatever it comes in terms of debate about the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, France is always involved to ensure that the document should not be brought for debate. The document should be recycled somewhere. The document should be recycled and they never be brought to United Nations for debate. And that is why they have a stewardship of the current Secretary General. And he appoints someone that is also a stewardship of the French. Even though he can't even comprehend that his country voted recognizing the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon. That is Francois Lefort. He's cuckoo, mental retarded as a Secretary General, right-hand person to lead the Central African region of the United Nations. Mental challenge, cuckoo. Why? And he stood up in front of the United Nations and said the Southern Cameroon are a terrorist. Who is more of a terrorist? A 22-year-old girl that was shot today or yesterday with her daughter she was carrying. A 3-month-old child was shot. 22-year-old girl with a 3-month-old child that was just breastfeeding. She was just attached to her mother's breast and she was being breastfed and she was shot alive. And you want to tell me to stand with the Republic of Cameroon and ask them to continue shot and kill. An 80-year-old mother was shot alive and was shot point blank. An 80-year-old mother, he doesn't even have a child. He doesn't even have nobody to protect her. She cannot even escape into the forest. But she was shot live. And by the grace of God, she was able to live her life up to 80 years old. But she was shot alive. And she was shot alive. And one will ask me, what is the Republic of Cameroon doing in the Southern Cameroon territory when the United Nations voted against the sovereignty and recognizing the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon as an independent nation? you will clarify me, you will argue with me that this 80 years old mother, was in his house and she was sitting there, and the evil force of the Republic of Cameroon army, military wing that lack education, they lack and understanding the difference between civilians and how they should react when they come across civilians. They never pay attention that they have to protect citizens. Even the United States government that have been fighting war, when they meet civilians, they go down on their knees and respect the civilians. The United States government, they don't go and kill innocent civilians. They respect civilians, even if under what circumstances. United States government will protect civilians, no matter what circumstances. But yet, the Republic of Cameroon are brutally murdering an 80 years old mother that cannot even run, cannot even walk. She was simply just, thank God, when will God call her? And she didn't believe she would make it at 80. But unfortunately, the Republic of Cameroon took her life. Shall we go into the life history of the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, the Southern Cameroon Territory. This young girl at 22 years old, with her 3 months old, I mean, tears will come out of your eyes when you see a 22 years old mother, and we have 3 months. Just imagine going for 9 months with her pregnancy, and she now finds herself shot with her baby, handling it in her breastfeeding. And that is the government the world want to stand with. That is the government, United States ambassador want to romance with her, with this brutal, evil government. Is that the government that the State Department will stand with? When we stand against evil do of people and in the world, is that what the United States government will allow to proceed? When a mother at 22 years of age with her 3 months old in her breast was just breastfeeding, and she was shot, the baby was shot, including the mother, at a point blank, and they both passed away. Is that the government you want to support? Is that the government that is out to support, protect its citizens? When this document recognized the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon, is that what you want to tell me? Recently, I report about a 67 years old blind woman. She was blind and she was deaf. That's the most beauty about it. She was blind and she was deaf. She was shot. No, she was burned alive in her home. A 67 years old mother. She was blind and she was deaf. So either or, she wasn't nowhere in her environment. Her children has abandoned the place and escaped into the forest. Her children has abandoned because of the invasion of the Republic of Cameroon. The homes were burnt. Whatever they see, they burnt alive. They did not even find out whether there was a human being that they need to protect. They were more of a brutal force than those were to protect citizens. Is that the government that you want me to endorse to protect the people of Southern Cameroon? Is that the government? When a 67 years old mother, blind and deaf, either or, she didn't even know where she was, but she was being guided and protected by the children that lived in that home. But the children could not travel with the mom. They escaped, and she was burnt because the entire community was burnt. Is that the government that the community want to stand for? Is that the community that the United States government want to support? When Southern Cameroon, sovereign nations, cannot manage itself, but they need to listen to the Republic of Cameroon. Is that what you want to ask me? Is that what you want to stand for? But I am speaking to the international community. I am speaking to the British government. I am speaking to the British Parliament. I am speaking to the Queen of England, that you may not have accomplished your mission, but you need to figure out whether are the people of Southern Cameroon still living? Are they still breathing this natural air? Are they? Because if God can protect a 67 years old blind, deaf grandmother to live up to 67 years, and her life was taken away by the Republic of Cameroon, the invaders. It is pathetic. It is pathetic. And the worst part is that the major media remains silent. You will understand with me that when North Korea brutal dictatorship arrived in China, the major media focused on him. All the major media focused on this brutal dictatorship. As soon as he arrived in China, what means of transportation he did take. You see, that's the philosophy where people misconstrue, minimize certain people because they are not worth to be talking about. So if 50,000 people are dead, it doesn't matter. 60,000 Southern Cameroon are in Nigeria for a single meal over a single day, in 24 hours over a single meal. But they are able to get food in their home they have abandoned because of the invasion of Southern Cameroon by the brutal force of military of the Republic of Cameroon. When one asks, what are the Republic of Cameroon doing in Southern Cameroon? You will not, if they has utilized that document, if the international community, including United Nations, has utilized that document, recognized that the sovereignty of Southern Cameroon are able to remain independent, they would have speak up and said, no, and no is no. I will agree that this country is a sovereign nation. The fact that you are cohabiting with the Southern Cameroon speaking doesn't give you the legal authority over them. And we will stand with the people of Southern Cameroon. The United Nations is still deciding whether they should call a general session to even discuss whether there was an issue to be even debate the people of the lesser race, Africans. The people of the lesser race, Africans. It doesn't occur to the United Nations body here in the United States to call a general session of a general assembly to discuss about the issues affecting Southern Cameroon, despite the fact that this document recognized them as a sovereign nations. But they remain silent. They remain silent. They remain silent. That is why a 22 years old girl are being shot. A 22 years old are being shot with a 3-month-old child being breastfeeding. That would immediately drop the person with a weapon that this is a young girl. This is her little child. And she just stood with the child and were being shot, both herself and her little daughter. And that would have dropped the military to say, I just need to drop my gun. I will not commit such an atrocity for this young girl. That is the government that I will persecute it to the end of my life. That is the government I will persecute it to the end of my life. And government must have a military that are well trained to understand the value of human beings that they stood for to protect, not the destruction of that individual. And if I am a leader of Southern Cameroon and any individual that shots such a thing, you will immediately be sent to firing squad. Right there. Right there. A 22 years old mother with her baby and being shot alive. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. That is pathetic. And yet we have a body here in the United States called the United Nations. The United Nations. And it doesn't occur to them that they need to call an immediate session and call a call of brutality of the citizens of Southern Cameroon that are being orchestrated by the Republic of Cameroon. You know what? I want to take a moment to thank you. I don't want to take all of your day, but I shall be coming up in due process of time and to ensure that the Southern Cameroon get out of the Republic of Cameroon, and they need to get out immediately. Until then, have a the rest of the day. Good night. Yes. Yes.